easier to have group conversations. That
Yeah, like breakout sessions and such. That would be
I saw
nice.
another thing where it's like sort of a 2D game where you have a space set up where you can walk around as like a 2D character.
There was one of those referenced in the thread for Hacker News, I think, that I clicked on the link and it looked pretty cool. I didn't start it. Though I'm not sure if maybe we're talking about the same thing, Hans, but man, see if I can find it. Do you know the name of it?
I don't remember, but I thought it was a really nice experience. It was you walked around these custom spaces, and then when you get close to someone, their face popped up at the top of the screen, so you could talk to them.
Is it Rambly?
Might have been. Wait, Rambly.
Rambly.app. RAMBLY.app.
I think there's a couple of different ones, but I suspect that might not be the one. Oh yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it has like kind of like a chiptune type feel to it. Very like 90 retros video game. There's I don't want to hijack our stand up for this.
It wasn't that exact thing, but it was very similar.
It was similar.
Yeah.
One of the cooler things that I heard about was there are remote escape rooms. And so there are some companies that are doing that for like their holiday parties. That seems pretty interesting. Anyway, let's get started. For the sake of the call, I don't think we had any old business to go over. I know that there was the mention by Jason Johnson in the was this yesterday or Monday? He was curious about footprint size, and I mentioned to him what we've discussed previously, what our goals are. But beyond that, I don't think that there's any old business from last week. So, Luke, did you want to go into your errors table again for the sake of the video, or?
Oh, sure, I can do that since it was before the recording. Yeah, so the big dominator is source spans. It's like almost 20%. So like we're not seeing 20% of the potential compile errors because of the source span issue. And as just a reminder, the reason why the source spans matter is we found out that going through MLIR, it doesn't like us just saying there is no debug info, and so like we need the source spans to at least be somewhat relevant and not just like no file at 0, because like the debug info is important for it to tell these nodes are different. So we need those to work, and also the fact that them being different right now causes an error. So like we don't even get through the parse because of those.
That one issue, that's like, looks like it's almost half of your.
No, it's actually much.
Total, right?
It's less because like we're closer to like 1,200 files. So it's.
Oh, it just keeps going.
Yeah, okay. So it's 494. So it's not. I think I said how much. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, it's like 40% instead of 50, and then like the next one after that, the invalid tuple type is just like most of the tuple element types we can't lower. So like recursive literals of tuples, where like the tuple is not just a tuple with integers in it; it is a tuple with complex things in it. Like that doesn't work right now, and so it affects a lot of files.
Is this an EIR thing?
No, it's a Paul thing. Like I know the lines in the code that do it. But as Paul changes the types, that keeps changing. It's like one of those things. Like he figured out that there was a better way in MLIR to do the cast so that like it would only add. So it would stay in optimizable forms. Like we wouldn't make it a term unless it needs to be, and so like, but that means that keeps breaking. And I don't know if he ever went back and fixed it, but it's mostly like, yes, this is a problem if you do it. It'll clear up a lot of stuff and hopefully show real bugs. There is a one that I don't remember seeing before that I didn't bring up because the tuple one affects more is redefinition of symbol is something in the code makes LLVMs think that we're redefining a function more than once. And I don't know I didn't have enough time to look into what that is, but that does affect like 50 some of them. In general, the logical or and logical and are being cast when they shouldn't be. So like the legalizer thinks it should output a 1-bit signed integer so that like we could just keep it not be termified, which lets us optimize the code, but it's automatically spitting out as a bool for some reason. So that's something to do with Paul's change to use MLIR better, probably. So he would know how to fix that. There's still some operand does not dominate use, like 30 some, so that's not as bad as it used to be. Mm-hmm. The given value is not a known block. I'm not sure what that is. It might be a thing with the order that the blocks are created, that somehow it's walking the tree in the wrong order and so it just doesn't work, but I'm not sure. There are a few ones that I can fix with test setup stuff, like undefined symbol is usually, that means that link time, it's not seeing something, so it's just we're not linking in the right things, so that's the thing I can fix. There's weirdly another one about cannot define a function more than once, where it does like func op is external. So like there's two forms of where there's two different errors for like a function is getting defined twice with the same name, and I'm not sure why it's a different error path. There's a couple cannot resolve variable things, and I don't know if that's because we're just in a file that has a parse transform, it's just parsing the code like the parse transform doesn't happen. Like if it kept going for some reason without erring on, I didn't know how to do the parse transform. I haven't looked at that.
Should we be breaking these out into specific issues for tracking?
Oh yes, I just haven't had time to do it.
I can do that. I mean, I'll just take maybe the first everything that has greater than double-digit count.
Yeah, and you can group together the logical and the logical or one, because I'm sure Paul did logical ops the same way. I don't know why he would do.
Sorry, Hans, what's that?
Making them together.
There are open issues for quite a lot of these, I think.
SourceFence has one, or it did. Okay. I don't know if we closed it and then said we're going to reopen it. But
I think
I can open them, and if we have dupes, we can just close it as dupes. I'll just blast through the list, and just so they're in there.
Yeah, and you could get. Did I post? I didn't post the link again. It's still in the same files I posted last time, but like we can get the actual list. I have the list, and I can just add stuff to the mix task to like. So the reason why I didn't do it was I was going to have the mix task actually just spit out a description, so I didn't have to think about how to write it, and that's why I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
Because the thing I want when I post them is I want to post all the command lines to run the tests, or at least to list the files that are affected, because that's how Hans and Paul tested. Is they at their level, not the test level that I'm running, they would just run it because it's faster than going through the whole Lumen compile cycle.
Right. So I did recall a few things of old business that I completely just bounced out of my brain. So maybe Hans, we'll go do your updates first, and then we'll circle back to old business.
I don't have many updates. I have this week off.
Simple enough. All right. So I have too many tabs open, but first one was there's that open PR from I think it's Mike Wilkerson.
Geez, I didn't look at it again. Sorry.
That's okay. The thing that I'm curious about, though, is that it looks like CI is stalled, or it's saying waiting for status to be reported.
This might be a fork issue. Like, it's always weird on open source projects getting forks to be able to build. Mm-hmm. I can look into it, because that is going to be an issue if we can't get if we can't allow contributors CI to work.
Okay.
Every CI is different about how to like allow forks to build but not get your secrets.
Right. Hans, you were going to try compiling for Linux. Did anything come about from that?
I did that, and I mentioned it in the thread.
I must have missed that.
Replies there. Sorry. Yeah, and it seems he succeeded in building it too, using the same approach I did.
Oh, you know what? Actually, now I do remember. You just referenced some command line arguments, I think.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And then I feel like there was one more. Let me go back to issues. Well, I mean, there's just there's a bunch of open issues, but we don't have to go through these. I think that we had discussed, and this is probably more of a Paul question. And I don't know if we committed to it or not, but I remember last week it was discussed cutting a new release prior to end of year. It may have been kind of like in kind of tongue in cheek, like Christmas release similar to Ruby, but I'm curious to know if that still makes sense to do. I'm not going to put it on Paul to get something out in the next 2 days, but are we far enough separated from, what was it, September, the 0.1 release, where we should do a new release?
It'll work, but obviously, I don't know.
Yes. Is there a good reason to do so? Let me put it that way.
We can get people to stop saying the Linux doesn't work, but they might just then hit the bugs that we know about. So I don't know.
Okay. What I'll do
is if Paul, I know Paul has a lot of like relevant changes, including getting updated to Rust nightly, which would make it a lot more convenient for people to build at least. But I don't know like how far he's away with that. It seems like he has a lot to do right now.
For the Linux build, at least, I'll open up a new discussion thread on on GitHub and just dump in Hans's response, just so that it's somewhere that's not going to disappear and like.
Yeah, that workaround came from Paul because he gave it to me.
And then
I got it from Luke.
That's fine. I'm just going to put the text in there.
Yeah,
so it's there. I'm sure that they'll be out of date at some point though, so I'll reference the current release version. Okay, then I think that's all. Brian, did you have anything?
No, just I was missing a lot of these meetings because I switched jobs and I had to figure out a new schedule.
Oh,
and everything. But
you're no longer at Revelry?
I could never say it either. Revelry, yeah, I'm at a Community now.
What does Community do?
It is it's where they have leaders or celebrities still like that have phone numbers, and then their fans or other members of their communities can like text message them, and it's you can almost think of it like almost like MailChimp with text messaging.
Is that Elixir?
A lot more social. Yeah.
Cool.
The backend's all Elixir.
Oh,
I haven't even installed Node yet. Thanks.
All right. We can cut it there then. I'll try to follow up with Paul and find out if I'm available next week if people still are. So I'm still happy to do the stand up. I'll see if what Paul's availability is. Bye.
Bye. Bye.